Shalom Israel, Shalom. Barak YaHaWah, Barak YaHaWaShi. Barak YaHaWah, Barak YaHaWaShi. Barak YaHaWah, Barak YaHaWaShi. BaHaSham, Qadash. Double honors to the elder apostles of great millstone, who teach well and rule well, who taught me this truth in its entirety, according to the Bible. Peace and salutation to the Akim, the fellow laborers, pushing this truth at risk of their own lives throughout the four corners of the earth. To the Akwith listening and learning, Shalom. So Brother Shema from the Pillars of Benjamin camp here in Toronto with another lesson. And through the spirit and power of YaHaWaShi, the title of this lesson will come. But we're going to get right into it. It's an article from PBS NewsHour. We'll watch it. It's only like 50, like a minute long, maybe, right? But we'll watch it and then we'll grab, most I willing, out of YaHaWah. We'll grab some scriptures.
This Thanksgiving Day has been dramatically different amid surging COVID-19 infections. The nation recorded another 178,000 cases on Wednesday, with more than 263,000 deaths to date. In Houston today, a turkey giveaway underscored the economic pain as hundreds sought food assistance there. Many said they'd never asked for help before.
It's been very, very hard, but I'm making it. You know, I posted on Facebook instead of worrying about, things that we can't do and places we can't go. Being that it's Thanksgiving, we need to be concerned with what we have.
In New York City, the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade did take place, but it was confined to a single block with no spectators and far fewer balloon handlers. Meanwhile, New York State's restriction on attendance at houses of worship was stopped short. The U.S. Supreme Court blocked it late on Wednesday night. We'll have more on that story after the news summary. President Trump,
Yeah, the Most High is killing off these idols, man. You know what I mean? We saw a Judite woman from the eye test. She looked like a Judite woman, right? She's lamenting, right? These idols we can't do thankskilling. The Most High is killing off thankskilling. That's gonna be the title. Out of YaHaWah. The water YaHaWaShi. That's gonna be the title. Let's get Isaiah chapter 19. The Most High is killing off thankskilling. Right? All these idols are getting killed off. The Most High is moving on them. Isaiah 19 verse 1. And it reads, the burden of Egypt. Behold, right? The burden of Egypt. Egypt, spiritual Sodom. The burden, let's look up burden. Let's get that burden, right? Most High is killing off these idols, man. Right? The Most High is putting a foot burden. A load, the burden of Egypt, right? A load, that which is borne or carried. Right? A load to carry, also to bear, right? To bear children. The shift. Right? To carry, the burden, a load. Right. That's where we're going with this. Right? The burden, the load that spiritual Egypt, spiritual Babylon is carrying. Right? The burden of Egypt. Revelation, let's get another precept. Revelation 11 and 8. Spiritual Egypt, spiritual Sodom. Right? America the Great, Babylon the Great. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city. The dead bodies being the Israelites, not knowing who they are. Israel being a people before a place. The so-called indigenous, the so-called Latino, the so-called Negro. Right? Dead. No breath in them. Ezekiel 37. Dry bones. Right? Shall lie in the street of the great city. The great city is Babylon the Great, America the Great. Which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt. Spiritual Egypt, spiritual Sodom. Where also our Lord, YaHaWah, was crucified. Where they canceled out the Hamashiach. Canceled them out and put the image of Caesar Borgia. Right? Let's go back to Isaiah 19 verse 1. The burden of Egypt, the load, the weightiness that spiritual Egypt, spiritual Babylon, spiritual Sodom, right? The burden of Egypt, spiritual Egypt. Behold, look, the Lord, all capitals, YaHaWah, rideth upon a swift cloud. That's the chariots. He's riding on the swift cloud. Chariots. That's why there's a all-time high UFO sightings, so-called UFO sightings. The chariots of YaHaWah, BaHaSham, YaHaWaShi are the so-called UFOs, right? Rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, spiritual Sodom, Babylon the Great. That's why there's UFO sightings, man. So-called UFO sightings, right? Here's the point. And the idols of Egypt, America the Great, Babylon the Great, spiritual Egypt, which is America the Great, Babylon the Great. The idols, right? Thanksgiving, right? Xmas, right? Right? Christmas parade, Santa Claus, the idols. Get the bag, the money, right? The idols of Babylon the Great, America the Great. And the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence. These idols are all being moved, man. Thanksgiving is getting Thanksgiving. The Most High is killing Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is getting X'd out. Their so-called Christmas is their Christmas is getting X'd out. Right? The dollar's crashing. Money's another idol. Right? Moved at his presence. And the heart of Egypt shall melt. Right? The heart of Egypt, America the Great, Babylon the Great, shall melt. You saw these people that were being interviewed. They're all distraught, man. Their heart is melted, man. Despair, man. People are pissed right now, man. They can't they can't worship their idols and celebrate their idols, right? What else did it say there? Harlot houses can't congregate idols, man. They can't congregate less than 10 people, right? The harlot houses, which is the so-called churches, they can't congregate. The heart of Babylon the Great, America the Great, it's melting in the midst of it, right? Melting, man, right? The Most High is making a move. Isaiah 24. Verse 10. The city of confusion is broken down. Confusion, the city of confusion. Babel. The Hebrew word for confusion is Babel. The city of confusion, America the Great, Babylon the Great, is broken down. Broken. Finish. Broken. It's broken. Every house is shut up that no man may come in. Every house is shut up. Evictions, for lease signs for commercial bricks and mortar retail, right? It can't travel freely. Checkpoints, right? Every house is shut up that no man may come in. There's crying for wine in the streets. This article that we're just watching, this video, they're crying for wine for answers in the streets. They want answers. What's going on? We can't celebrate our Xmas. Thanksgiving's dead. There's no Xmas parade. We can't go to the harlot houses and worship, right? There's the crying for wine in the streets. All joy is darkened. Joy is darkened. There's no bright light. Despair. The mirth of the land is gone. There's no mirth. The mirth is done. America the Great, Babylon the Great is done. There's no mirth, right? There's no mirth. Let's close out with this one right here, man. Right? The Most High YaHaWah, BaHaSham, YaHaWaShi. It's killing Thanksgiving. That's the title. Micah 5, verse Micah 5, verse 13, and it reads, "Thy graven images also will I cut off." Who's going to cut it off? The Most High YaHaWah, BaHaSham, YaHaWaShi. It's cutting off all graven images, man. The worship, going to harlot houses, and worshiping the image of Caesar Borgia. The Most High is cutting that off, man. Right? These heathens, these other nations, these heathens, 2/3 of Jacob, 2/3 of Israel, they can't go to their harlot houses no more and worship this image of Caesar Borgia, man. The Most High's cutting that off. And thy standing images out of the midst of thee, these standing images, the wood and stone, their Christmas tree. The Most High's cutting it off, man. Didn't the Rockefeller Christmas tree get delivered and it's withered? Right? And thou shalt no more worship the work of thy hands. The Most High, you're not worshiping the work of your hands no more. The Most High's cutting off all these idols, man. Right? Right? The scriptures say this, man. I pray edified. I don't want to Kwam Yasharala. Wa abad babal. Shalom.